Do you really need a living trust if you don't own a house or any other real estate? You might already have a will and just a few bank accounts, retirement accounts, and some life insurance. Well, the short answer is no. You probably don't need a living trust if you don't own real estate. But in this video, I'm going to share with you a few situations where you might need to set up a living trust even if you don't have or own any real estate. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, hit the subscribe button to get notified whenever I post a new video about living trusts. And by the way, my name is Edmund Yan. I am a living trust lawyer. I've helped hundreds of families and I've taught thousands of people how to do it themselves. And I'm really excited to share my tips and tricks with you today. If you decide you need to set up a trust after this video, and you want to learn the entire process of how to make a living trust the right way without hiring a lawyer, then check out my free online class at freetrustclass.com. The link is on the bottom of this video. Really quick legal disclaimer, I'm not your lawyer. I'm not giving you any legal advice. All of this is just information. If you have any legal questions, please talk to a lawyer. So why does anyone need to set up a living trust anyway? The number one reason is to avoid probate court. So really quickly, probate court is where your family will have to go to receive their inheritance in the event that you pass away and there's nothing that says who gets the assets. And this is especially important with real estate. If you die owning real estate, you don't have a trust, you might have a will, but you don't have a trust, then your family will end up in probate court to receive your real property. And so a lot of people with real estate would set up a trust so that when they pass away, their kids would seamlessly be able to receive the property without having to go to court, spend 1, 2, 3 years in court and tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees before they can receive their inheritance. So that's number one, it's to avoid probate court. Number two is to ensure your loved ones receive their inheritance. So in your trust, just like a will, you can say, when I pass away, I want these people to receive my house. I want these people to receive my money. It could be very clear in your living trust. So those are the two big reasons why anyone should set up a trust. But like I said in the beginning of the video, if you just have bank accounts, if you just have retirement accounts, life insurance, you don't necessarily need a trust. All you need is a will. And your will would say, hey, when I pass away, I want these people to receive my assets. And if you are in that situation and if you have a will, there's a few things you need to do. Number one, make sure all of your financial accounts have beneficiaries on them, death beneficiaries. That's filed with the banks and the financial institutions that says, when I pass away, I want these people to receive my assets. And then number two, for your retirement plans, same thing, the 𝐼RA, pensions, 401ks, you want to make sure all of those have death beneficiaries so it doesn't end up in probate. Okay, and then life insurance, same thing. Who are the beneficiaries of your life insurance when you pass away? All right, and then have a will that supports those decisions as well, that's consistent with those beneficiary designations. And usually that's all you need to do. Have a healthcare directive, have a power of attorney, have a HIPAA, and that's it, okay? So another question you might have is, do I need a living trust if I don't own real estate? So the short answer, like I said, is no. However, I'm going to share with you a few scenarios where you actually want a trust, even if you don't own real estate at the moment, okay? So scenario number one is, yes, you need a living trust if you're planning to own real estate in the future. So if you're planning to buy real estate next year, it doesn't make sense for you to spend money and time on a will, and then next year you're going to set up a trust to replace the will. You might as well just set up a trust now, okay? And also, number two is, it's nice to set up a trust now before you buy real estate, so then when you are in the process of buying real estate, you're not scrambling to put together a trust. A lot of people reach out to me, they call me and say, hey Edmund, I'm closing in on a property in a few days or a few weeks. Can you help me set up a trust to protect my property from probate? Okay, I can certainly do that, but it is just so rushed, and you want to have that time to really think through your living trust, your estate plan and do it thoughtfully. And so if you're planning to own real estate in the future, in the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you want to just set up a trust, okay? So you just get it done, and when you're ready to buy real estate, you just put that real property into your trust. Second reason, even if you don't have a trust, real estate, you should get a trust, is if you want to control your children's spending of their inheritance. So, let's say you have $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million in your bank account, and you want that money to be used for your kids' education, for their living expenses like their food, shelter, and clothing, and to make sure that they're well taken care of in terms of their basic needs like their health care as well. And so the question that I have for you is, when they're 18, okay, if you pass away and your kids are 18 or over, would you be comfortable with them taking their entire inheritance all at once with no supervision and be able to spend however he or she wants to spend that money? A lot of parents, most parents that I work with, the answer is always no. They don't trust their kids, especially if their kids are younger, haven't reached 18 yet, or are in college or in their 20s or even 30s and 40s, and they feel like they're not going to be responsible for 6 figures or 7 figures even of cash, of assets. They're just going to blow it. Okay, I heard one time this stat that on average a beneficiary goes through their inheritance in less than 2 years. So in 2 years, their entire inheritance is gone. That's the average. So a lot of people, especially lottery owners, right, they don't know how to handle money, and so when they get a lump sum right away, they might not know what to do with it, and unfortunately a lot of times they make the wrong mistakes. And so even if you don't have real estate, you might want to consider setting up a trust in this scenario, especially when your kids are younger and they're going to be inheriting multiple 6 figures or 7 figures or even 8 figures, right? You want to make sure that they spend their money wisely. And so what we do as living trust lawyers, a lot of times we would set up a trust that says everything to my kids. However, I want their uncle, right, Uncle Tom, to manage their inheritance for them on their behalf. And so Uncle Tom would be the trustee to say, okay, kids, what do you need? Okay, you want to go to college? Here's some money for college tuition. You want a car? Okay, here's a decent car for you to drive. You want a Lamborghini? Oh no, your parents wouldn't want that for you. And so the trustee can say no to these outrageous purchases that your children or grandchildren might want to purchase in the future. And so you have this trustee kind of stepping into your place to make sure that your kids are able to spend their inheritance wisely and not waste their inheritance. So that's one way to control your kids' spending, is by putting into a trust, assigning a trustee to manage those assets, invest those assets, and then distribute those assets wisely to them and control their spending. In your trust, you can also say that once my kids turn a certain age, they can start taking out money and making decisions on their own. So for example, in your trust, you can say when they're 25, they can take out half their inheritance and do anything they want with it. The other half, before they're 25, they need to listen to the trustee to decide what to do with the money. But after they're 25, they can take out half to spend and invest however they want. And then when they're, for example, 30 or 35, they can take out the remainder of their inheritance and do anything they want with it. This type of structured distribution that you can get in a living trust is good for kids because, number one, it controls their spending. Number two, it allows them to make mistakes. Because if they get a lump sum through a will, for example, or through a trust that says everything to my kids when I die, then they might make the mistake of blowing it all in 1 or 2 or 3 years on stupid things, right? So you want to avoid that, where you can give them a percentage or a specific cash amount at specific ages for them to make decisions on. And if they blow it, then at least they have a second try or a third try to make wise decisions later on in their lives. So we can't really control our children completely, but we can set them up for success, and that's what a living trust can help you do. Now, a third reason why you might want to consider a living trust, even if you don't own real estate, is if you want to protect your financial accounts from probate. So a lot of people, for example, have $1 million or six figures in their bank account, and that bank account has beneficiary designations, but it ends up going into probate for many reasons. So for example, one reason could be the beneficiary passed away, and now there's no contingent beneficiary. So for example, if you listed one of your sons as the beneficiaries and your son dies with you in an accident and there's no other beneficiary on that account, then now that account would be subject to probate. So you might have had a beneficiary on your financial accounts, but because the beneficiary passed away with you, now the account would have to go to probate because there's no contingent beneficiary. Or what if your contingent beneficiary dies with you as well in an accident? That's uncommon, but it does happen. And then that account ends up in probate. So I always tell my clients to really guarantee or to be certain that your accounts don't end up in probate is by putting it into a trust, because then if the trust is the owner of the account, the trust will always control what happens to the account, and the trust will always have contingent beneficiaries that says, hey, if this person dies, then it goes to that person. If that person dies, it goes to that person. If that person dies, it goes to that person, on and on and on until it reaches a reasonable stoppage point. But for financial accounts, adding beneficiaries, there's really just one level or two levels, sometimes three levels. So the question is, what if all of those people pass away? What happens? So you want to make sure that you protect your financial accounts from probate court by putting it into a living trust. And then another reason is if your child or beneficiary has special needs. If, for example, this child or beneficiary receives government benefits due to a disability that he or she has, you do not want to put it, you do not want to have the kid inherit it right away. You want to structure that distribution and create a special needs living trust, special needs trust, or create a living trust with special needs provisions in it to make sure that their inheritance is theirs. However, it does not disqualify them from government benefits. And so if you don't plan ahead, then your special needs child or beneficiary would then be disqualified from having government assistance because now they have some assets. So that's another reason why you might want to consider a living trust, even if you don't own real estate. Another reason I just thought of right now that I don't have it here on the slides is protecting your kids from divorces. So that might be another reason why you want to set up a trust to protect them from their own divorce, so that their spouse wouldn't be able to take a piece of their inheritance upon the divorce. You can structure your trust that way to avoid that scenario as well. So there's many other reasons why you might want to consider a living trust if you don't own real estate. So if you're planning to set up a trust or will, I would recommend that you educate yourself before you hire a lawyer or before you do it yourself. Okay, really important, because if you hire a lawyer, then you can ask the right questions and you can have a more thoughtful plan if you're educated and you're really in tune with the process. And of course, before you do it yourself, you really need to know the process of setting up a trust from start to finish, which is why I set up a free class at freetrustclass.com. I teach you how to make your own living trust the right way without hiring a lawyer if you don't want to, so you can protect your house from probate with confidence and without making mistakes. I'm not here to sell you my legal services. My number one goal is to make sure you keep more money in the family and give you that peace of mind that you deserve. So if you want to learn the whole process of setting up a trust, or if you're planning to hire a lawyer but you want to know the process of setting up a trust before going into the trust making process, take my free class. You can register using the link below this video. If you just want to type it in your browser, it's freetrustclass.com. All right, so that's it for this video. If you have any questions for me, please ask me in the Facebook support group, and I will do my best to answer those questions for you in the next video. You can also leave a comment below this video, and I really pray that as a parent, you're going to make the best decisions for your children, because the Bible says a good person leaves an inheritance to their children's children. And one way to leave an inheritance is to make sure that when you pass away, there's not going to be a legal mess waiting for your kids. And if you don't plan ahead, if you don't pick the right legal document, whether it's a will or a trust, and if you pick a will when you need a trust, then it's going to cause a lot of problems for your kids. Your kids are going to end up in probate court, a lot of time, a lot of headache, potential litigation in probate court. And so you want to avoid the court process as much as possible. Keep everything private in the family and make sure your kids receive it with the least amount of cost. So I pray that you're going to get the wisdom from God to really help you guide you through that process of making your living trust, which is going to be the best gift that you leave your family when they need it most, when you're not here. You have your estate plan, your living trust, or your will to take care of your family. All right, so God bless you all. If you have any other questions, please ask me in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you in my next video. God bless you.